Former Mayor Tim Julian is in studio right now. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, it's troubling. You know, to say the very least, it's troubling. First off, this whole process from beginning to end has been troubling. The process of whether this was a grassroots effort that started with just people who wanted to support the present mayor, and listen, some people may say, well, the city is going in the right direction. Well, the right direction for exactly who? Because I think you can go around, you can ask certain people if the city's going in the right direction, and they're going to say, no, they don't feel as though it is going in the direction. And you're always going to have that back and forth.
Yeah.
But to be arrogant enough to think that you're the only one who can bring it home, and you're the only one who can make that type of difference. You are, and trust me, I know this pretty well. As mayor of the city of Utica, you're pretty easily replaceable.
Yeah.
As any one of these politicians.
Yeah. History has shown us
any one of these
the truth,
positions. The life of a city is a long time.
Right.
It will far outlive you, I, and probably the memories of you and I.
I know you were certainly against the extension. I mean, you were vocal. You were at the meetings.
I think that this is when they say, well, we're the only ones who have it. Well, maybe we're the only ones doing it right, because really, if you look at the problems, from Utica County to Albany to the Washington D.C. This is where the problems lie. These people who get there and make this a career. There was no thought of a career politician when the forefathers wrote these articles of our Confederation. There was no thought of someone saying, "What do you want to be when I want to be a politician?"
Yeah.
No, you wanted to be at the time a blacksmith, a what have you, and then you wanted to go and do your part to assist with the guidance and the tutelage of your nation and push it forward, just like. And you hate to say it, but almost like the council people should be. Council people, obviously you can't survive.
Right. It's not like
some of them can on $14,000 or whatever it is a year. And in order to do that, you need to have a real job or a job that you work at. And look, many of these people work very, very diligently at this job and probably do put close to 40 hours a week into being a council person. And I take nothing against that from them.
Could you see, we had the Republican chair, Hobaika, on saying he doesn't see the mayor going to Lometico and saying, hey, your kid has a job here. I hope he gets to keep it. Maybe a threat. Joe says he doesn't see the mayor doing that, but could see someone else coming in and trying to coerce Lometico.
Is this the same mayor that fired Russ Brooks because he was against the asphalt plant? Ask these questions. Mm-hmm. If you see and look toward vindictive behavior, here. And it's a competing radio station. Let me just put that out there. But they have an event that goes on a Tuesday night. Yeah. And the city decides to sponsor an event that goes on Tuesday night because they don't get along. Mm-hmm. They're at loggerheads with that particular radio group.
With Rozier.
And they have the same event on the same night at a city location. And I'm not sure of the technicalities behind it.
Yeah, and I don't know how that all went down.
And you know what's terrible about that?
Do you think the city was behind moving that?
Oh, it's still there. It's still in both places. But the trouble with that,
But do you think the city, because it seemed like it was the vendors who were upset and they rose up and tried to find another place. But you think it was the city that prompted that to happen?
You know what? The city could have said, let's have this on Wednesday night instead.
Right.
Let's have this on Monday night instead. Because who loses in the end now is the people of the city who, instead of having some fun things to do 2 nights a week, now you got something that you have to choose to do 1 night a week. So, I mean, there's always that guidance there that you can offer and push things along the way if you want to see things move in the right direction.
So do you, do you blame Jack, if this is all true, do you blame Jack for trying to keep his kid employed?
Look, I think in a day and age of everyone's carrying a cell phone camera, everyone's carrying a recording device, every word you say is being copied and listened to very carefully and probably interpreted in ways that you never thought they would be. I would like to make it incumbent upon someone to get that on some sort of a where we can hear that. We can hear that being said. And I think if I was threatened, what I would do is I would do just that. I would go back and try to get that same threat to be made again.
Right, and then sue the pants off the city. You'd get a lot more than a...
Yeah.
And look, I mean, Jack's son is there as I believe he's a nighttime cleaner, which isn't like a glory job.
Which is what Jack said to us.
It's not a job that you're going to sit there and you're not going to get rich with it. You're not going to get huge accolades. But it's an honest living, you know. It's an honest living, and to put and hold that against somebody is reprehensible, really.
I mentioned this earlier as a possible answer. Is it possible? He's talking to this guy from Reclaim New York, and we talked to him. He's a nice guy, but they're at an event where maybe there's a cocktail involved, and this guy's peppering him with, "You shouldn't have done this. Why did you do that? How'd you do it that way?" And he finally says, "Listen, I didn't agree with it. I don't think we should have extended the term limits, but." And he just throws something out there to get the guy off his case. And then he comes on the air and he says it. Any possibility there, or do you think this actually happened?
You know, I know Jack a little bit from political dealings, and I'll say this. Is, I always got a kick out of some of these paper tigers that are involved in politics. I'm going to tear your throat out if you don't vote. I'm going to go after you. You know, Jack's actually a tough guy. I can't see Jack getting up and getting his feathers ruffled from something like this. I could see Jack grabbing the guy by the throat and saying, "Get away from me."
Yeah,
I would much more in my mind like to see something like that happen, because I can see that happening.
Yeah.
And I to get someone away from you and to say something like that. Oh, you know what? that is a long.
That's fair.
That's a long
the problem. The problem too is his response to us yesterday, Andrew, which was
that John Byrne was full of what.
Yeah. I would have, as I said earlier this morning, I would have said I was being sarcastic right off the bat, and that would have at least thrown that out there to say, because people were saying, a lot of people in town were saying he voted that way because his son had
that was the rumor floating around.
That was already out there.
That rumor was floating around. Yeah. I mean, there was. I think one council person. The other rumor was one council person wants to run for a higher office, and as such was going to get the endorsement from the mayor if he ran for that higher office. And all I can say is the endorsement of the city mayor for a higher office is really not worth a lot. And coming from someone who truly, I mean,
well, endorsements themselves.
Sure. If you're
what do they really mean at the end of the day?
A political endorsement from one politician, unless it's a superstar politician.
I love even those we found out didn't work. I mean, look at all the endorsements going on during the presidential election. Sure. To me, an endorsement is really valuable when a check is attached to it. That makes for a good endorsement.
That's a great endorsement.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that.
Well, even in that case,
in the political realm, that's a great endorsement.
I'll endorse you. No, don't. Just come to my chicken barbecue.
Just cut the check. Just cut the check.
So,
if all your kids can too, that'd be even better.
Only in Utica, typical Utica. I hate to use that, but it just seems to be we just cannot get out of our own way.
It's sad to see, because I thought we were kind of getting a little bit past all that, and this is something that's going to drag us right back down in the quagmire that's been. We've been known for a long time, and again, I think this is something that, if you look at it, this is proving the point of term limits. That if you are there for so long, you feel as though you can be there for so long, then you could start to make these statements and make these threats and not have to worry about it. No one's going to run against you because they're going to. It makes the point that we need term limits, not only on this level, and I'll say it again. Every level of government needs term limits.
I do. I'd like your opinion, and I don't want to hammer Bill Morehouse, but when he was on the air the other day, he really ripped into Hobica because Hobica has a candidate named Ernie Sanita who is running against Bill Morehouse, and Bill did say, "I should have been running unopposed. I've done a great job. I should have been running unopposed." I kind of took offense to that.
That's. And
I like Bill, and I think Bill has done I think he's done a good job.
I think he's done a fine job. I mean, a comptroller's office, it's very difficult to quantify that until years down the line when you see, what the financial impacts and the audits and things like that start to come back as. But that being said, to say anybody deserves to run unopposed.
Yeah, I feel that's the big problem in not just locally but in the country today.
Sure,
it's
the
lack
taking
of
away
participation.
The choice, and a lot of times people are running unopposed because they feel as though, the same thing. It's an incumbent. They've been here forever. What are the chances you're not going to win? That's why you look at guys like Frank Gentile out in North Utica, and he's really giving it a run against Pepperello, who's been there for a long time, and is a very difficult guy to beat because he's involved in a lot of things. But Frank's really, I think, the first guy I've seen to go forward and really kind of make some inroads on that, and I think that's big. I mean, I see a younger guy, Matt Downs, out in South Utica, running on the against the county legislature. And again, I'll go to this: the county legislature seems to be less competitive than most anything at all.
Yeah, and that's not just in Oneida County either; it's all over.
And the question is, I mean, you question, is there a need for a county legislature? Can we do it with a board of supervisors instead, which would probably, wouldn't save the county a ton of money, but it would be something. Number one, and number two, I think I said this before. I defy anyone to almost tell me who their county legislator is,
right?
Because most people don't know. You don't call them. You don't have a need for them. And they're not out there really.
Well, no, it's different. I think it's different.
It's what are they? What are they? I mean, it may be different in the outlying areas, but I mean, for a county legislator to come forward and say, what can't be done with a meeting once a month of the people who are charged with the direction of the municipality that they're served for. I mean, if you had a board of supervisors, why would you need a county legislator? If you had, the supervisor from the town of Vernon has to come in, and the supervisor from the town of Floyd has to come in, and the supervisor from the town of wherever, and they come in once a month,
right?
Instead of having a elected county legislator. For what?
I think this
totally disagree.
I think this could be continued for another conversation, which could be a completely different topic. I want to end with this because I got Ryan Noble standing by, but also, I may have poked the bear. Bill Morehouse is on the line right now. William, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
I'm not saying I should run unopposed. What I'm saying is Joe shouldn't fill a slot just to fill a slot. He filled a slot with a guy who didn't have to do any work. He didn't go out and get any signatures. They put his name on the ballot. They got his signatures for him, and he's there. And whether you think he's qualified or not, that's for the people to decide. But Joe filled the slot just so he'd have a full slate to fill a slot. And you shouldn't do that. You should bring in people who are qualified and who want the job and are willing to go do the hard work of getting the signatures. And that was my point.
That is it is what you said, and I don't know if you realize, but we also did compliment you. We said, I think you've done a good job. I mean, look at the city's rating currently.
Is in the pudding, I think, but yeah, I appreciate that. And I have no problem with an opponent, but I felt in this case, Mr. Hobica, and he knows he did. He just wanted to fill the slot, and he found somebody that was willing to put their name on there, and that's what he did.
Ernie would tell you differently, but
just quickly, Mr. Morehouse, I agree with a lot of what you said, but except for the point, what is the qualification to be comptroller? What qualification do you have that your opponent doesn't have?
Well, if having 18 of your houses repossessed because you failed to pay the taxes on them qualifies you, then Mr. Sunita is qualified.
All right,
we'll leave
Bill.
it at that for now.
There's always
you asked.
I did.
There's always an edge. There's
somewhere
always
in Morehouse's house, the mic just dropped. So, oh my God!
All right, Bill. Thank you for the call. Oh, there goes the mic. It did
there
just drop. All right, Tim Julian, you want to comment on that, or?
Well, look, I mean, I think that there's some. That's a pretty valid point. You really can't take anything away from that. That you have to have, if you if you've gone bankrupt, for example, you probably shouldn't be I'm not saying either of these candidates have, but I'm just saying that should be something that would probably it wouldn't disqualify you, because there are really there's no real. I mean, you don't have to be an accountant. You don't have to be a CPA. You don't have to be anything to be the chief fiscal officer of the city of Utica, which in and of itself is absurd.
It is.
But
however, it would be you got to be knowing that if you're going for the comptroller position and you have bankruptcies, it's going to be baggage you're going to be.
You're probably going to hear about it.
You're going to hear about it.
You're probably going to hear about it.
It's going to pop up.
but conversely, if you are running unopposed, you probably are not going to hear about that.
That is correct.
And the people of the city are not going to hear about that. And look,
I like opposition either way.
To have someone who comes up who is a party member, and I'm not a Republican Party member, but to have someone come up who's a party member and says, I want to run for this position, and no one else is, how do you say, no, come back next time. We're going to leave the slot open. I think you just try to have to, unfortunately.
Mr. Kaczynski in New Hartford would be saying, I don't think I've done a great job. I did not need an opponent.
Right.
Kaczynski.
Yes. And we saw what just happened over there.
I have yet to see anybody who thinks they deserve an opponent.
Tim Julian, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.